It was January 1943. Allied forces had secured North Africa. The next logical step was invading Europe through the Mediterranean. But there were only two realistic invasion points: Sicily and Greece. Sicily was the obvious choice. It was closer to North Africa. It had better beaches for amphibious landings. It provided the most direct route to mainland Italy. Any military planner looking at a map would immediately identify Sicily as the invasion point, which meant the Germans would be expecting it. The Allies needed the Germans to believe the invasion would come somewhere else, anywhere else. They needed a deception so convincing that Hitler himself would divert troops away from Sicily to defend other locations. But how do you make Hitler believe a lie? German intelligence was sophisticated. They didn't trust captured documents or intercepted messages. They knew the Allies used deception. They were suspicious of everything. British intelligence needed something the Germans couldn't dismiss. Something so credible, so authentic, that even German skepticism would be overcome. They needed a dead body. The architect of deception, the man who conceived Operation Mincemeat, was Flight Lieutenant Charles Cholmondeley, pronounced Chumley, an RAF intelligence officer working for Mi-5. Cholmondeley had been thinking about using corpses for deception since 1942. His inspiration came from a gruesome novel called The Milliner's Hat Mystery, where a corpse was used to deceive police. Cholmondeley wondered, could a corpse deceive German intelligence? He wrote a memo proposing to dress a corpse as a military courier carrying fake invasion plans and dump it off the coast of Spain, where German agents would find it. The memo was passed to Lieutenant Commander Ewan Montague, a naval intelligence officer working in the 20 Committee, the British Deception Unit. Montague was intrigued. The plan was audacious, but audacity was necessary. Conventional deception wouldn't work against German intelligence. They needed something unprecedented. Montague refined Cholmondeley's concept. The corpse couldn't just carry fake documents. It needed a complete identity, a life story, personal effects. Everything had to be authentic enough to withstand German scrutiny. They would create a person. Give him a name, a history, a personality, then kill him, on paper, and use his body to sell the greatest lie of World War II. Finding the body, the first challenge was finding a suitable corpse. This proved surprisingly difficult for several reasons. Medical requirements. The body needed to appear to have died from drowning or plane crash. Many corpses were unsuitable because cause of death would be obvious to medical examination. Legal requirements. British law strictly controlled the handling of corpses. Relatives had to consent. The identity had to be protected. The body couldn't be desecrated. Practical requirements. The body needed to be male, military age, and in reasonably good condition. It needed to withstand days in seawater without obviously decomposing. Through connections at hospitals and morgues, the team found a candidate, Glyndwr Michael, a homeless man who had died in January 1943 from ingesting rat poison. The death could be mistaken for drowning or exposure. Michael had no close relatives who would object. His body was in suitable condition. Glyndwr Michael would become Major William Martin of the Royal Marines. Creating Major Martin, creating a convincing identity, was the most crucial aspect of the operation. German intelligence would examine every detail. Nothing could seem suspicious or contrived. The documents. Major Martin would carry a briefcase containing a personal letter from Lieutenant General Archibald Nye, Vice Chief of the Imperial General Staff, to General Harold Alexander, commanding Allied forces in North Africa, discussing upcoming operations in Greece and Sardinia, with Sicily mentioned only as a deception target. A letter from Lord Louis Mountbatten introducing Martin to Admiral Andrew Cunningham. Various official papers, all genuine except for the falsified contents. The personal effects. 2 love letters from Pam, Martin's fictional fiancée, including an overdraft notice from Lloyd's Bank. A photograph of Pam, actually a photo of an MI5 secretary, Jean Leslie, who volunteered her picture. An engagement ring receipt. Theater ticket stubs, a bill from a London club. Letters from Martin's father, actually written by Montague. An ID card and military passes. Each item was carefully aged and used. The letters were crumpled, carried, and made to look authentic. The photograph was handled to show wear. The ticket stubs were from actual shows. Everything told a story. The personality, Major Martin, emerged as a character. He was engaged to be married. He was in debt, the overdraft notice. He enjoyed theater. He had a father who wrote him concerned letters about finances. He was, in all respects, a real person who happened to be dead. The dressing on April 17, 1943, Glinder Michael's body was removed from cold storage. The transformation of corpse into Major Martin began. The body was dressed in a Royal Marines uniform with proper insignia. A trench coat was added. The briefcase was chained to his wrist using a chain typically used by couriers carrying sensitive documents. The personal items were placed in his pockets, wallet with the ID card, the letters from Pam, receipts, keys, spare change, everything a person would carry. The body was placed in a specially designed container filled with dry ice to preserve it during transport. The container was labeled optical instruments to avoid questions. On April 19, 1943, the container was loaded aboard HMS Seraph, a British submarine. The crew wasn't told what they were carrying. Only the submarine's captain, Lieutenant Bill Jewell, knew the truth. The release HMS Seraph departed from Holy Loch, Scotland, traveling submerged to avoid detection. The destination was Huelva, Spain, on Spain's southern Atlantic coast. Huelva was chosen specifically because it was neutral Spain, where the body would be found by Spanish authorities rather than German forces. It had a strong German intelligence presence, the Spanish authorities were known to share information with German agents. The currents would wash the body ashore naturally on April 30, 1943, at 4:30 a.m. HMS Seraph surfaced 1 mile off the coast of Huelva. The container was brought on deck and opened. The crew, seeing the body for the first time, were shocked and disturbed. Captain Jewell read Psalm 39 as the body was placed in the water. The briefcase was confirmed to be securely chained to the wrist. The body was set adrift, positioned to wash ashore with the incoming tide. HMS Seraph submerged and departed. Major William Martin was alone, floating towards Spain, carrying secrets that would change the course of the war. On April 30, 1943, at approximately 9:30 a.m., a Spanish fisherman named José Antonio Rey Maria found a body floating near the shore. Spanish authorities were notified. The Civil Guard recovered the body and documented the discovery. The body was wearing a Royal Marines uniform. A briefcase was chained to the wrist. The uniform was waterlogged but intact. Personal effects were found in the pockets. Spanish authorities conducted a preliminary examination. The body appeared to have been in the water for several days. The cause of death seemed consistent with drowning, though the medical examiner noted some inconsistencies, actually from the rat poison that killed Glinder Michael. But this wasn't recognized. The British vice consul in Huelva, Francis Hazelden, was notified. He played his role perfectly, demanding the immediate return of the body and especially the briefcase. Insisting they contained sensitive military materials, his demands had the intended effect. They made the Spanish suspicious. If the British were so desperate to recover the briefcase, it must contain valuable information. The Spanish examination, Spanish authorities photographed the documents before officially returning them to the British. This was standard Spanish practice. They routinely shared intelligence with both Allied and Axis powers while maintaining official neutrality. The photographs were provided to the German Abwehr, military intelligence station in Huelva, which forwarded them to Madrid, and from there to Berlin. German intelligence immediately recognized the potential value. If authentic, these documents revealed Allied invasion plans. But were they authentic? The German intelligence conducted an extensive analysis. They examined every aspect of the documents and Major Martin's identity. Document analysis. The paper was genuine British military stationery. The signatures appeared authentic. The writing style matched the supposed authors. The security classifications were correct. Body analysis. Spanish medical reports indicated death by drowning. The body had been in water consistent with several days' drift. No signs of foul play. Identity verification. Major Martin's service record existed in British military databases, planted there by British intelligence. His father's letters referenced verifiable details. The fiancée Pam appeared in London phone directories, another plant. Context analysis. The documents mentioned Sicily as a deception target for an invasion of Greece. This was strategically plausible. Greece would allow Allied forces to threaten the Balkans and Romania's oil fields, which were crucial to Germany. One German intelligence officer noted, "The circumstances of the discovery are suspicious. The British would not normally send sensitive documents via courier on a flight over water. However, every detail we can verify appears authentic. The critical question, was this a genuine accident or an elaborate British deception? The debate in Berlin, German military intelligence debated the authenticity intensely. Arguments on both sides. Skeptics argued, the British knew German agents operated in Spain. They wouldn't risk sending sensitive documents on vulnerable courier flights. The documents were too convenient, revealing exactly what Germany wanted to know. The entire scenario seemed contrived. A courier carrying invasion plans who happens to wash up where German agents could find him. Believers argued every verifiable detail was authentic. The British couldn't have faked service records, personal correspondence, and all the personal effects. The documents didn't just reveal invasion plans. They contained routine correspondence that happened to mention the plans, making them seem genuine rather than planted. If this was deception, it was so elaborate and detailed that it seemed beyond British capability. The strategic logic was sound. Greece made military sense as an invasion point. The debate reached the highest levels of German command. Field Marshal Wilhelm Keitel, chief of the German Armed Forces High Command, reviewed the documents. So did Admiral Wilhelm Canaris, head of the Abwehr. Ultimately, the believers won. The documents were classified as genuine with high probability. German military command accepted that the Allies would invade Greece and Sardinia, with Sicily used as deception. The German response based on the Mincemeat documents. Germany redeployed forces. Greece, German reinforcements were sent. Defenses were strengthened. Additional troops were stationed throughout the region. Sardinia, coastal defenses were enhanced. German forces were positioned to repel invasion. Sicily. While not completely stripped of defenders, Sicily received less reinforcement than it would have otherwise. German command viewed Sicily defenses as adequate for repelling a feint attack. Hitler himself was convinced. He ordered his generals to prepare for invasions of Greece and Sardinia. He specifically mentioned the intelligence from Spain as confirmation that German analysis was correct. The trap had worked. Germany had redeployed forces based on fake documents carried by a corpse that was actually a homeless man who had died from rat poison in London. On July 10, 1943, Allied forces invaded Sicily, Operation Husky. It was one of the largest amphibious operations of World War II, involving over 180,000 troops, 3,000 ships, and 4,000 aircraft. The invasion faced resistance, but less than it would have without mincemeat. German forces in Sicily were adequate but not overwhelming. The troops that could have reinforced Sicily were in Greece and Sardinia, waiting for invasions that would never come. Allied forces secured beachheads quickly. Within days it was clear Sicily would fall. By August 17th, Allied forces controlled the island. The invasion of Sicily led directly to Italy's surrender in September 1943, and the eventual Allied victory in Europe. The British. Confirmation British intelligence monitored German communications after releasing Major Martin's body. Through ultra-decrypts, decoded German Enigma messages. They confirmed that Germany had found the documents, analyzed them, and believed them. One intercepted message from the Abwehr to German command stated, "The documents discovered in Spain are genuine. Recommend immediate reinforcement of Greece and Sardinia." Another decrypt revealed Hitler's personal order to strengthen defenses in Greece based on the intelligence from Spain. British intelligence knew Operation Mincemeat had succeeded. Before the Sicily invasion even began, the deception had worked beyond their most optimistic hopes. The cover continues. Even after the Sicily invasion, the British maintained the deception. Major Martin was buried in Huelva with military honors. His gravestone read, "William Martin, Major, Royal Marines, 1943, beloved son, in loving memory." The British couldn't reveal the truth. That would compromise future deception operations. German intelligence might realize they'd been fooled and become more suspicious of future intelligence discoveries. So Major Martin remained real for years after the war. The gravestone remained. The false identity was maintained. Glyndwr Michael's family was never told that their relative had helped win World War II. Post-war revelation: the truth about Operation Mincemeat was finally revealed in 1953 when Ewan Montague published The Man Who Never Was, a book detailing the operation. Even then, Glyndwr Michael's identity was protected. Montague didn't reveal whose body had been used. The book caused a sensation. The audacity of the operation, the elaborate detail of the deception, and the confirmation that it had worked captured public imagination. In 1956, the book was adapted into a film, also titled The Man Who Never Was. The film dramatized the operation and introduced Major Martin to a wider audience. Glyndwr Michael's identity wasn't publicly confirmed until 1998. Over 50 years after his death, a memorial plaque was added to his gravestone acknowledging his role in the deception. The legacy of deception Operation Mincemeat is considered one of the most successful deception operations in military history. It demonstrated several principles that influenced intelligence work for decades. Attention to detail. Every aspect of Major Martin's identity was meticulously crafted. Small details, the theater stubs, the overdraft notice, the worn photograph, made the deception convincing. Psychological understanding. The operation exploited German intelligence practices. The British knew Germans were suspicious but thorough. By making everything verifiable and authentic, they overcame German skepticism. Strategic patience. The operation took months to plan and execute. The British invested significant resources in creating one convincing corpse rather than multiple crude deceptions. Exploitation of success. Even after Sicily was invaded, the British maintained the deception, preventing Germans from realizing they'd been fooled. The ethical questions Operation Mincemeat raised ethical questions that remain relevant. Using the dead. Was it ethical to use Glyndwr Michael's body without his consent? He was dead from misfortune, buried in Spain under a false name, and his family never knew he'd served his country. Deception in war. The operation saved thousands of Allied lives by reducing casualties in Sicily, but it involved elaborate lying, forgery, and manipulation of a corpse. Hidden heroes. Michael deserved recognition for his contribution, but received none during his family's lifetime. Is it ethical to deny recognition to maintain operational security? Most historians conclude the operation was justified given the stakes, thousands of lives saved, a major step toward ending the war. But the ethical ambiguity remains. Modern declassification. In recent decades, more details about Operation Mincemeat have been declassified. We now know the extent of British deception operations during World War II was far greater than previously acknowledged. Operation Mincemeat was one of several corpse-based deceptions attempted, others failed. German intelligence actually found Operation Mincemeat suspicious, but ultimately concluded it was authentic because every checkable detail was real. The operation influenced post-war intelligence doctrine in multiple countries. Today, you can visit the Nuestra Señora de la Soledad Cemetery in Huelva, Spain. There, you'll find the grave of Major William Martin, Royal Marines. The original gravestone, placed by British authorities in 1943, remains. Below it, a plaque added in 1998 reads, Glyndwr Michael, served as Major William Martin RM. It's a quiet grave in a small Spanish cemetery, far from the battles of World War II. Nothing about it suggests its occupant changed history, but he did. A homeless man who died from rat poison in London became a decorated British officer who deceived Hitler and helped win the most important battle of the Mediterranean campaign. The audacity of Operation Mincemeat wasn't just in using a corpse for deception. It was in understanding that war is fought not just with weapons, but with information, psychology, and belief. The British understood that if you control what your enemy believes, you can make them defeat themselves. You can make them send troops to the wrong place. You can make them prepare for invasions that never come. You can make them lose a war they should have won. All it takes is enough attention to detail to make a lie indistinguishable from truth, enough understanding of human psychology to exploit your enemy's analytical processes, and enough audacity to try something no one has ever attempted before. Operation Mincemeat succeeded because German intelligence was good. They carefully analyzed the documents. They verified everything they could verify. They debated authenticity thoroughly. They made a rational decision based on available evidence, and they were completely wrong. Because the British had created a deception so detailed, so thoroughly authentic in every checkable aspect, that even careful analysis led to the wrong conclusion. The corpse that fooled Hitler wasn't remarkable because it was a corpse used for deception. It was remarkable because every detail of that corpse's false life was so meticulously crafted that trained intelligence professionals, looking for deception, concluded it was genuine. Major William Martin never existed, but he won a battle anyway, and Glinder Michael, the homeless man who became that non-existent major, helped win World War II. He never knew it. His family never knew it during his lifetime. For 50 years, his sacrifice was secret, but it mattered. It saved thousands of lives. It shortened the war. It proved that sometimes the most powerful weapon isn't a bomb or a bullet. Sometimes it's a well-crafted lie delivered by a corpse washing ashore at exactly the right place in exactly the right time. That's the legacy of Operation Mincemeat. Not the macabre use of a dead body, but the understanding that in war, belief is as important as bullets. And if you can control enemy belief, you can win without fighting. The greatest victories don't always come from destroying enemy forces. Sometimes they come from making the enemy destroy themselves by believing a lie. Hitler believed the lie. Germany redeployed based on that belief, and the Allies invaded Sicily with far less resistance than they would have faced, all because of a corpse, a briefcase, and the most audacious deception operation of World War II. Major William Martin accomplished his mission. And Glinder Michael, whose name Hitler never knew, helped defeat him.